Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Dose Leprechauns. I am Leprechaun Jason.
I am Leprechaun Nate.
And we are back after a couple-week hiatus. We've had some scheduling issues, and then, as we'll cover in our second segment, I was in the Holy Land. I was back in South Bend last week, and wasn't able to record that week, of course, but we'll be talking about my trip and all the great things that happened, and reviewing a little bit of the last couple games and the start to this. I'll just call it an interesting season thus far. So, Nate, what did you think about the game yesterday, Notre Dame versus Syracuse?
I really liked the first 5 minutes. I think our team really showed that, hey, our defense is going to suck this year, but our offense is going to be great. So,
Suck or struggle? Because I think there's a big difference there.
Well, I mean, when you give up a ton of yards to Syracuse in the first 5 minutes, your team's struggling on defense.
I prefer, I'm more of an optimistic domer. I like to look at the positives. I think that Deshaun Kaiser is otherworldly at this point. I don't think there's any quarterback in the nation, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson included, that are playing as well as Deshaun is. I think he has great arm. He's got some speed. He's making a couple bad decisions, but I think that's just because he's trying to literally put the team on his back and run with it. But, Deshaun hitting Economia St. Brown for that touchdown within the first play of the game. Mm-hmm. That was awesome. That really kind of set the tone for most of the rest of the day. You're going to see a lot of offense. I think we had, 23 or 27 points within the first 5 minutes of the game. 32 points from both teams. So pretty much a shootout what we expected. I mean, the Syracuse offense was no joke. I think they were as advertised. To highlight a couple things, obviously, as everybody knows, we had a new defensive coordinator, first game out with him in the new system, Greg Hudson. For those of you who don't know, Greg Hudson is a very accomplished, I don't know if he's very accomplished, but experienced defensive coordinator. He had some time at Purdue, had some time with Florida State, and now he's here with us. He was hired this year as a defensive analyst, and now with Van Gorder being fired, he was brought in as the interim defensive coordinator. I think it's kind of a tryout period, and if I'm really thinking about it, I don't know if Greg Hudson's the guy. I hope that he can steady the team and the defense for this season, and then we'll see if we can get a big name, up and coming, young, fiery type defensive coordinator for next season. But Greg Hudson, Nate, I'm not sure if you knew this. He actually played linebacker for Lou Holtz, the Lou Holtz team. He played some baseball at Notre Dame. So I think that's an important piece. I think you have the buy-in there. As a former defensive player for the Irish and former student athlete, I think he has the buy-in and he understands what these guys are going through.
Yeah.
Also, just to highlight a couple of things from yesterday, obviously the Irish got the victory 50-32, so 18-point victory. Some of the things that I was mostly impressed with in terms of improvement from the defense, they only gave up 199 yards the last three quarters, and I think that speaks for two things. I think Syracuse ran that offense where they were running a play every 3.5 seconds, which is incredibly fast. It's that kind of Baylor up-tempo, Dino Bevins type coached offense, and they ran it well. They didn't try to do too much, and what they did do, they did well. And I think you saw them taking the Irish off guard a little bit the first quarter especially. But then, after that, I feel like they really settled down. They made some good halftime adjustments. You saw a lot of different players in there yesterday. A couple of guys I saw that I was really impressed with, obviously, Devin Studstill ejected in the first half. Total BS targeting call. Was not targeting, in my opinion. So some guys had to step up. I mean, we're already thin at safety, but you saw a guy like Nico Fertitta coming in and making some plays at safety. Jalen Elliott had some nice plays. I thought Drew Tranquil played a lot better. Saw a lot of Dante Vaughn at corner. Saw some Julian Love at safety position as well. So I was impressed with what I saw from some of the young guys. Now, again, people say, oh, well, it's just Syracuse. Well, Syracuse was the fourth best offense in the nation coming into this in terms of efficiency. So it's just Syracuse, but, they can play some offense, and that's where we were really worried. Are we going to be able to stop them at all? And I think they got those key stops and only giving up 6 points in the second half. That's a big improvement from what we saw against Duke. And moving forward against NC State and Stanford and some of these big-time programs we have coming up, it's a big jumping-off point. I think we can only improve. Anything else from the game yesterday, Nate?
I really like to see the Kaiser to EQ because it's, to me, I think it's like Torrey Hunter Jr. and Kaiser from 2 years ago and a year ago, and, Will Fuller. but I think they're going to connect a lot more this year for a lot of more TDs.
Yeah, and I mean, you saw C.J. Sanders get another kick return for a touchdown. That was exciting. That guy, we haven't had this kind of excitement and ability on kick return since the Rocket days back in the late 80s, early 90s. So it's exciting to have somebody back there that can truly change the momentum of a game with his kick return and punt return skills. So that'll do it for our recap of the Syracuse game. Next up, we're going to talk about my trip to Notre Dame this past weekend, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Now meet the legend that is us, Notre Dame. We stand together and that's not gonna change with family.
All right, we're back at Dos Leprechauns. Nate, we recapped the Syracuse game a little bit now. Since we won't be recording for a couple weeks, we'll talk about our next two opponents because by the time our listeners hear us again, we'll have played North Carolina State at North Carolina State. And then our rivals, Stanford, the Tree, come into town in a couple of weeks. So with North Carolina State, it's a hostile environment. They play well at home. They're not necessarily an ACC powerhouse, but they're definitely an ACC team that's pretty solid and usually gives some bigger name teams some fits. I think the biggest thing about North Carolina State that I've seen thus far, they have wins against Wake Forest. I can't remember who else their other win is, but they did lose to East Carolina, who apparently East Carolina is playing some pretty good football, but they do have a win against Wake Forest, who was previously undefeated. They have I don't know much about their quarterback. They have a very solid running back in Matt Days, a guy that's very shifty but strong. It's going to be important to tackle this guy because in the film that I've seen, he's very elusive. He's a guy that if he gets into space can really, pretty much take it to the house. So I think our linebackers, our safeties, our defensive tackles are really going to have to step up and tackle and wrap up, which has been a problem for us. So, hopefully Coach Hudson has been looking at film on this guy and recognizes that first hit needs to be the only hit. Drive your shoulder pads into him and get him down to the ground. None of this arm tackling BS, none of this tackling high. Get low and bring him to the ground. And defensively, North Carolina State has two guys that are just absolute studs. Bradley Chubb, who's a defensive end that you probably have never heard of, but you will once we play these guys next Saturday. He's a guy that is he's a terror for the tackle. The left tackle, right tackle, wherever he lines up. He's going to be somebody that's going to really challenge our offensive line, but I think our guys are up to the test. I think if you shut that guy down, you've got some other guys on the North Carolina State defense that can do some things, but really he's the biggest difference maker. Then you got, of course, Jalen Samuels. They're kind of a little bit of a hybrid player. He plays H-back, which is a combo fullback tight end position. He's somebody that can make some plays for these guys, and I think you're going to see some trickeration. I think you're going to see some guys trying to expose our secondary. So it'll be an interesting matchup. It's not going to be an easy place to play. We went to Syracuse on the road. That was our second road game. You saw how we did against the hostile environment in Texas, which obviously I think was the first kind of exposure to a hostile environment for some of these kids. This will be their second real hostile environment because the road game yesterday against Syracuse was not really a true road game. I mean, there was more Irish fans than there were Hughes fans. So this will be the second real road test, and it's a tough environment. So, they're going to have to really lock it in and have that game plan ready to go. Got to stop the offside penalties. I mean, that was ridiculous against Syracuse. Basically, false starting or getting into the neutral zone off of a hand clap. So we got to get better on that. We can't give up yards to these guys and just play smart smash mouth football. I mean, we didn't talk about Dexter Williams' run. I mean, you saw that. What do you think of that run?
That was epic. That was probably the best run I've ever seen.
You talk about a guy. You talk about some of the talent that we have, and they're starting to really show out now. Dexter Williams, Josh Adams, Terry Folson, who was banged up yesterday. Didn't get to see him too much, but I think we start to really rely on these weapons and not be so one-dimensional. You get to see what these guys can really do, and I'm excited to see how they bring that to North Carolina State. So looking for big games from Dexter, Josh Adams. I think you'll continue to see the Deshaun Kaiser to Economia St. Brown hookup. And then yesterday we got to use our tight end a little bit. That was exciting to see. You saw Nick Wisher with a couple catches. You saw Durham Smythe with a couple catches. Coach Kelly, Coach Stanford, if you're watching, I want to see Tyler Luatua more involved in our offense. I think he's somebody we can bring in to help get our running backs some space. So let's get Tyler in there a little bit more. He's proven himself. He came back. So let's get Tyler Luatua in there a little bit more. Nate, I know you did some research on Stanford. What's your take on Stanford? What do we got to expect out of those guys?
Well, obviously they're going to be good. I mean, they always have been good. But we got to stop McCaffrey like last season. I mean, we could easily stop him, and we were like, I think, the only ones who stopped him from not getting over 200 yards or something like that. But this year, they have a new quarterback, and I think they're just going to run the ball the whole game. So we need to stop the run, and if they do pass, we need to blitz every single play.
You know, with Stanford, I think you pretty much know what you're going to get. They're going to line up with 2 tight ends. They're going to try to hand the ball off to Christian McCaffrey probably 30, 40 times and see what he can do. And, I mean, obviously, he's one of the most gifted athletes in the country. He got bottled up on Friday versus a very tough Washington defense. And I think the best thing about that game, I mean, Stanford lost the game. To me, the best thing about that game is that Washington gave us, meaning Notre Dame, a blueprint on how to stop Stanford in their attack. So hopefully Greg Hudson, when we get ready to play Stanford, is going to study that tape, see what Washington did. I mean, Washington has some freaks on defense, so we're a little bit different. They have a little bit more experience, but I think the game plan is there. Limit Christian McCaffrey as much as possible. You're not going to stop him. You're going to, as Chris Berman used to say, you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. That's what we need to do. We need to contain McCaffrey, keep his long runs limited, and then try to stop the pass, which last year against Stanford, that's what killed us, was Kevin Hogan to Caduce. So if we can bottle up McCaffrey for the most part, and then stop some of those long throws, I think we'll be okay. Defensively, they have a couple of players that can really do some things, but I really think if we can shut them down or at least contain them on our side defensively, I think our offense will be able to move the ball against them.
Yeah, what I don't get about this game is every Notre Dame fan is shutting out the Irish, and they don't think they have a chance against Stanford, but I think since Kevin Hogan left, we have a great chance.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not one of those fans that thinks we don't have a chance. I think we have a chance in every game. I think that Stanford's always going to be tough. They're always going to be that team that gives us fits, and it's always going to be, kind of an instant classic type game. So I expect them to bring it just like they always do against us, but I think that lately, the home team has won this game. A couple of years ago, we beat them on that last second pass from Everett Golston to Ben Koyak. A few years before that, in the 2012 season, we had that goal line stand. In the championship year, the BCS championship year, when we stopped them at the goal line 3 different times, and it's a classic in the rain, low-scoring game. This year, I think it'll be different. This year, I think it'll be a high-scoring game with the Irish edging it out at the end.
I don't know. I think it's going to be a very low-scoring game for Stanford. I think I have our guys going 14-30.
Wow, I like it.
Because they're not going to be able to get the pass game started, so they're going to rely on McCaffrey, and McCaffrey can't do it all. He can't get you 500 yards and you get 10 passing yards. That only happens in Madden.
Especially when you cheat. All right, well, that'll wrap up that preview segment. Looking forward to reeling off. I really hope the Syracuse game was a catalyst to get our season going. I mean, we're a 2-3 football team right now, as Coach Kelly would probably say, and that's something they have to live with. The playoffs are not a thought at this point, so I think it's just trying to salvage a good season, get a big bowl game, and build some momentum going into the 2017 year. And I think North Carolina State and Stanford are 2 games that are very winnable, so let's get those wins and go to 5-3.
Bowl game.
All right.
Now meet the legend that is us Notre Dame. We stand together and that's not gonna change with family.
All right, we are back now again with Dos Leprechauns, and just going to talk a couple minutes about my trip to the Holy Land last week actually, and the Duke week. So I got a chance to go to my first game at Wrigley Field. Just an amazing experience. I think, as I was talking to the 5-round MMA guys, being at a Cubs game or being at a lot of Angels games throughout the years, one of the things you see is you get a lot of people that go just to get drunk and hook up and show off in the Southern California heat and beautiful weather and all that. Being at Wrigley Field, I mean, just the environment outside. My sister, who's been to a lot of games and lives out there, has told me that even when they're bad, even when the Cubs are bad, it's still an electric environment down there, and people have a great time. And being at the game, seeing every single seat filled was just awesome. And seeing everybody engaged from the first pitch to the last out Cubby fans are truly passionate. You didn't see any, they're playing Cincinnati, and you didn't see any Cincinnati Red fans there. It was literally all Cubby fans, and then some neutral people like me. So to be there was just a really great experience. I'm glad I got to finally see my first Cubs game at home. So that was on Tuesday. Wednesday, I made the trip down to South Bend. I actually got lost and ended up somewhere in Niles, Michigan. So that was an interesting experience, but it was cool to just kind of see some of the countryside. I was in no particular hurry. Drove on campus as I always do, and made my trip down to see the Golden Dome. Recorded it as I was driving, didn't really care. It brought tears to my eyes a little bit when I saw it again, because it really is just, if you haven't been there, you wouldn't understand unless you see it. It's really a breathtaking thing to see. So you went to go see that. Spent some time on campus. Went to my bed and breakfast, which if you're ever in the South Bend area and coming out for a game, I highly recommend that you check out Airbnb. They're not our sponsor or anything, but I mean, my trip, I was able to save a lot of money not spending money on hotels with Airbnb, and I got very blessed and lucky to stay with Caroline and Mike, who are Airbnb hosts. They actually are part of Rent Like a Champion today also, but in this case, they were Airbnb hosts, and just a great environment. They had a Notre Dame room, had the whole room to ourselves, and I saved, not going to tell you how much I paid, but I will just tell you that you'll save about $200 a night on your trip if you check out an Airbnb instead. You don't get your exclusive room and you don't have your exclusive bathroom, but it's well worth the price if you're just there for the game. Thursday, got to go on the campus tour, got to touch the sign again. If you've never been to a game at Notre Dame and you're going out for a game week, definitely invest the $15 in the campus tour, the stadium tour. It's $15 and you get to go all throughout the stadium. You get to go on the field, touch the Play Like a Champion Today sign in the locker room. They do it Monday through Thursday of game week, so make sure you get there a little bit early if you are going for game week. Then, of course, Friday, all the pregame pageantry. You had the trumpets under the dome, the pep rally, midnight drum circle, all these great exciting things that took place. Just getting to experience those again was just amazing. And then, of course, Saturday was game day. You wake up, do a little tailgating, go to the stadium, the Notre Dame experience inside, where you get to meet some of the older players. And then I was fortunate enough to link up with a good buddy and a good supporter of the show, Jason Lynch, who's one of the Notre Dame fantasy camp guys. And a lot of people have asked how I was able to get into the locker room on game day. Well, if you go to fantasy camp, one of the benefits is you get to go into the locker room on game day with the uniforms and pads and helmets already in there for the players. It's different than being there without all that, and then getting to actually go inside the locker room itself, where the lockers are, was really an incredible experience on game day. So big thanks to Jason Lynch. As a fantasy camper, he got some extra passes. He was generous enough to give me one of those, so I got to go in there for that. And then, I got to go inside the actual tunnel before the game. That was cool, incredibly cool. It's kind of a bucket list moment for me, really, to see the band basically try to scare away the other team, the pregame stuff they do there, the Notre Dame guys coming in after the warm-ups. So big thanks to my stadium dude for that. Not something that you can really advertise, so I'm not going to really talk about it too much other than just say thank you for making that happen. And then the game, obviously, my seats were incredible. The weather was great. It just didn't go our way. I don't know what it was. It just felt different. Notre Dame jumped out to a big 14-0 lead, and then there was just some weird stuff that happened with, the kick return, and it just seemed like they got deflated a little bit by that, and Duke kept running that dang bubble screen. I mean, they had a 19-year-old quarterback. I will never understand how we lost that game. Duke coming in as a 1-2 team, I think at that point. Losing that game, it broke my heart. I sat there after the game and just contemplated for a while what had actually happened. But then I realized that, obviously I love the team, but I really love the school, the traditions, the people more than that. So fortunate to be there after the game, got to meet up with some of the players, Drew Tranquill, Chase Claypool, Parker Boudreaux, Baby Brock. That was an awesome experience to meet him finally. Big shout out to his mom, Sarah, for making that happen. Got to catch up with Avery Sebastian, Dexter Williams. Just great that, after the game, even though they lost, tough loss, these guys still came out with a smile on their face because they were, happy that fans were still there to support them. So just love everything about Notre Dame. It was just it was an incredible experience. My third time there. Keeps getting better each time. We're looking to go back next year as the family, so my wife and mother and father can experience it for the first time. if you haven't been, you have to make the trip somehow. You got to make it happen because it's just takes your breath away, and there's just so many great things to do. You meet so many great people. Jason Riley, Nick Yoder, Amy Minnick, all these people that I had a chance to meet out there just made it even that much better. So thank you to everybody that made my trip such a success. Bobby Metlenberger, Jason Lynch, Amanda Chizar, everybody, just thank you guys so much for welcoming me to the Midwest area and making me never want to leave. So I'll leave it at that, and thank everybody once again, and we'll be back with our final segment in just a couple minutes.
Now meet the legend that is us Notre Dame. We stand together and that's not gonna change with family.
All right, we are back with our final segment, and this morning we're going to be joined by a special guest that has really gone out of their way to help us out here with our show, and we can't thank him enough for that. As you'll see behind me here in the studio here in 5 Round MMA Studios in California, Southern California, we have a new and beautiful Play Like a Champion Today replica sign. Those of you that are fans obviously know, and a lot of those that aren't fans know, that the Play Like a Champion Today is a very symbolic piece of Notre Dame lore. The players hit the sign as they go out to the fields every game, whether home or away. The sign you'll see before me here is a very well done wood piece that me having touched the sign a few times, I can tell you that this is the most authentic I've ever seen and the most true to form I've ever seen. I mean, it feels just like the sign at the stadium. It looks just like the sign of the stadium. It's probably, they do them, I'm sure, about the same size. But anyways, it's a beautiful piece, as you can see here on the YouTube channel. For those of you listening on Podomatic and iTunes, you won't be able to see it, but you'll definitely want to check it out after we talk here. So anyways, the person that made this happen is the president of a company called Madmore Creations, and I'm going to let him explain where you can find his stuff at. But we are joined this morning by the president of Madmore Creations, Matt Lowe. Matt, how you doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. Once again, thanks for sponsoring the show. Dos Leprechauns greatly appreciates your sponsorship. We're huge fans of your work. As I mentioned to the listeners, we have your Play Like a Champion Today sign up here behind us. Can you let the listeners know kind of where they can find your product and how you were able to start to do some of these signs?
Of course. Well, actually, you can find the product online. If you essentially just Google Madmore Creations, you can see our Facebook page and see our Etsy site right on top there. We've been in business for about 6 years, and the past couple of years, I've been an Irish fan all my life, and but for the past couple of years, we've been fortunate enough to be able to produce the Play Like Champions license. And up till recently, that just changed. We received a notice to stop producing them due to some in-house changes with Play Like a Champion Incorporated, which is a licensing company. So we're efforting to try to get that back, and this is a great opportunity for us to kind of get that word out. So,
is there anything that people can do, fans of yours? I know Jerry Kennedy, a supporter of the show and a supporter of your product, is a fan. You know, several other people have bought your signs and really appreciate your work and what you're doing. Is there anything that our listeners or fans can do to help support you guys getting that Play Like a Champion Today license back?
Of course, one of the things, and we're actively trying to get that back. It's one of the things I feel that is important. I'm a traditionalist. There's a lot of tradition with Notre Dame, the school, the sports, everything. I think the sign is probably one of the most significant pieces in college football history, personally. I think it's important that it's hand-painted. There are no hand-painted options out there right now. As far as I know, we were the last. We would love to continue doing that. I know that Play Like a Champion Inc. or Play Like a Champion Today.com has a contact page. That is something that, if you want us to or want there to be a hand-painted option, I don't see any reason why you couldn't contact them and let them know that. We're posting on our Facebook page updates as they come along. They're kind of slow in between, but in a lot. I mean, here over the last 3 weeks, we haven't really put anything necessary in regards to our communications with them. But we are actively trying, and I mean, like our page, potentially reach out to them and let them know that they want a hand painted option, of the sign.
Got it. Okay, yeah, and I hope all our listeners will do that because you'll find a lot of Play Like a Champion Today merchandise out there, but as Matt mentioned, it's not hand painted. It doesn't have that TLC factor that you guys put into it. I mean, when I got this, as I mentioned to you, Matt, I hadn't had a chance to open it because I was on vacation, but when I opened it, it felt like I was opening the actual Play Like a Champion Today sign that's inside the locker room in South Bend. So kudos to you on your work and going through your website before I even had a chance to get to know you. Your stuff is just phenomenal. I mean, for our listeners out there, I highly encourage you, if you're a Notre Dame enthusiast, to go check out his work at Madmore Creations on Etsy or his Facebook page. Talk a little bit about the championship sign that you do, the replicas. You guys know, you walk down the stairs and the tunnel at Notre Dame Stadium, and you'll see the national championships in all the years. Can you talk a little bit about that product as well, Matt?
Of course, yeah. That is actually the largest product that we offer. And it's available on the Etsy site. We had a request to do it. It's funny how this all has come along. The Play Like a Champion sign itself was one I did for myself, here at the house. I mean, it was just something that we're big fans. We want to hit it, and somebody saw it and wanted one, and that evolved. Same thing with the championship sign itself. Somebody asked me if I could do it. And why not? It's incredible, and we do it in a 28 by 60 inch length, which is again it's fairly large. And then we also but that offers room for the additional championships. Hopefully, we'll be getting there soon. Obviously, not this year, but hopefully soon. And then we also offer it in a 48 inch length, which doesn't really leave a whole lot of room, and that is pictured on the site.
Okay. So, yeah. And that piece is just awesome too. It looks just like it. And like you said, I love the fact that on the larger one that you're saving room for our next championship, because we all know it's inevitable. It's just a matter of when. So I love that piece also. So finally, Matt, as a sponsor of the show, we want to thank you once again for that and the sign, obviously. But I know you and I had talked a little bit about doing a contest to try to get the word out, both about the podcast and your product. So do you want to give the listeners a little bit of an idea of what we're doing on the contest here for your stuff?
Of course. We're coming up with new designs to kind of fill the void for the Play Like a Champion right now until we get that licensing back. What we've done is actually we've reached out to a couple different venues. One specifically was the Notre Dame garage sale. Kind of asked a couple folks what they thought of some designs and stuff. But what we'd like to do is go ahead and give one of those away. That's approximately a $55 value plus shipping. But again, these are hand painted signs. I don't know if you have that available. I sent that pic to you. There's a couple pics that I sent to you. Maybe you can post on there.
Yeah, we'll post on the YouTube page.
Yeah, but to register to win, just like our page, like our Facebook page at Madmore Creations on Facebook, and we could give them a week before possibly Friday before the NC State game to get registered, and then I don't know how you want to do that as far as the drawing. If you want to do something like raffle copter on a podcast but yeah, we'd love to do that.
Okay, great. Yeah, we appreciate that. So for those listeners that are just joining us, Madmore Creations is doing a giveaway. All you have to do is like their Facebook page, Madmore, M-A-D-M-O-R Creations. Like their page, and you'll automatically be entered into a drawing to win one of their Go Irish hand-painted signs. It's a beautiful piece. I'm going to be ordering one myself, so I highly encourage everybody to be a part of the contest, and we'll announce that on our Twitter and Facebook here in the next, probably the Friday, like Matt said, before the North Carolina State game. Matt, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I'll tell you, Jason, I really appreciate the opportunity. I think you do great things in support of the team, good and bad. I think it's important for us to keep that in perspective. It's all about doing it the right way, and we'll have a championship again soon. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, I totally agree. All right, Matt, thanks for the time, and thanks again for the sponsorships. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you. Go Irish.
All right, go Irish. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, so that was our interview with Madmore Creations president, Matt Lowe. Excited to have him a part of the Dos Leprechauns team. Nate, what do you think about the sign?
I think it's really cool, and when we got it, I was like, what the heck is this big thing here? And he never told me, so I was like, okay. So when he finally opened it, I was like, wow, this is really, really cool, and the design is epic.
Yeah, it really is. And we'll be having it here in 5 Round MMA Studios here for the next few weeks, few months maybe. We'll see how that goes. And then from there, it'll find a permanent place in our Leprechaun Cave back at home in Riverside. So that's going to do it for us this morning. I do want to say once again to our listeners, if you're not already a fan of Legion of the Leprechaun, make sure you go to that site on Facebook, Legion of the Leprechaun, the best fan forum on Facebook. Thousands of members, thousands of likes. Our team of admin, myself, along with 4 other Jasons, Daniel and Brian Buck, we really try to keep it as positive as possible while still allowing fans to ascertain their thoughts on the state of Notre Dame football, as long as they do it respectfully. We don't attack players, we don't attack coaches, we just let our opinions be known respectfully. But Legion of the Leprechaun is the home of the Dos Leprechauns podcast. We premiere it there first for our viewers and fans there. And then you'll see it on our regular Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. So make sure you like Legion of the Leprechaun. I also want to give a special shout out to Jason Mahoney of Mahoney Beard Brew. If you're a beard guy like Albert and Alex and myself, Nate, in a few years, you'll get your beard going. If you're a fan of beards and good, clean product, Mahoney Beard Brew does a great job, smells great, it's got a good shine, it's got a good hold. I'd highly recommend you check out Mahoney Beard Brew and my buddy Jason Mahoney. I just want to say thank you once again to everybody that made my trip possible to South Bend. I want to give a big shout out to Troy Keenan, who continues to be one of our big supporters. All of our SoCal Notre Dame folks, look forward to seeing everybody at the USC tailgate. It's going to be epic, and then we're going to go out there and beat up the criminals of the Coliseum. That's all I have. Nate, do you want to give a shout out to any of your YouTube buddies?
Yeah, shout out to ARF Trooper 9. He's almost at 100 subscribers. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment on this video. And go Irish Beat and DSU State.
NC State, North Carolina State coming up next. One more quick shout out to the guys at 5 Round MMA. They do an incredible job on the podcast, YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook. They have every network out there, and they do a really good job of giving fair, unbiased, usually content on MMA. And also Fightbook MMA, who's also a proud sponsor of 5 Round MMA. They're going to be retweeting and giving some love to our show, so I want to thank the guys at Fightbook MMA on Twitter for that. And again, thanks for 5 Round MMA for letting us use the studios, and we'll see you guys next time. Go Irish.
No, we are today. Hey, yeah. There is no glory without scars. Blue and gold, we fight hard, and they know who we are.